Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the 530 News on Q2, Montana's news leader.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Russ.
And I'm Jeanelle Slade. New information tonight surrounding the massive Miles City sex abuse case involving a former high school athletic trainer.
That case involves dozens of former male student athletes who say they were subject to sexual massages and inappropriate touching by James Jensen, a trainer they thought they could trust. Survivors of the abuse accused the Miles City Unified School District of doing nothing to stop it.
Well, today, a summary judgment hearing in Miles City pushed that civil case one step closer to trial. The admitted abuser was not in the courtroom.
Well, now this question is in the hands of a judge whether the district is responsible for Jensen's conduct and if the district is accountable for not protecting victims. Q2's Andrea Lutz reports from Custer County District Court.
Well, parties met here for a formal hearing. Custer County District Court, all of this involving a massive sex abuse case with the former Miles City athletic trainer, James Jensen.
The question is whether the Miles City Unified School District was aware of sex abuse reported by James Jensen's victims, and whether a Montana state law in place at the time prevented the district from having to report instances of sex abuse. Attorney Jeanelle says the law at the time applied to cases of abuse by a parent or guardian.
Our argument is that the statute wasn't at the time something that we could have complied with. It doesn't mean that we wouldn't have or didn't want to. It just means as a matter of law, we could not have complied with it because that's not what it was at the time.
However, attorneys for the 32 plaintiffs in the case say Montana case law says otherwise. Attorney John Heenan says a public school district has an obligation to keep children safe.
Mandatory reporting is there for a reason. The law says that there's certain people, because they're in a trust position with our children, that if they see something going on, if they see a child being harmed, if they see a child potentially being abused, they have an obligation to let law enforcement know.
Lervik says the district had no responsibility for Jensen. He was a volunteer for the school up until a certain point in time. Heenan saying they have 3 accounts of documented abuse by victims reported to the administration, and that the administration looked the other way.
This hearing only taking less than an hour, and now the judge says that he'll probably take the next couple of weeks to make his ruling ahead of trial. In Custer County District Court, Andrea Lutz, MTN News.
Thanks, Andrea.
Now, Jensen has already admitted to federal charges related to the case. He did that back in March in a Missoula federal courtroom.
He also faces state charges in Custer County for possessing child pornography.
Montana Governor Steve Bullock on the presidential campaign trail in Iowa for a second day.
He's moving fast, messaging, meeting and greeting Iowa residents one community at a time. MTN's Mike Dennison is in Dubuque, and tonight brings us the initial reactions.
For Governor Bullock, this is where the presidential campaign begins. On the highways and byways of eastern Iowa, where he spent Friday meeting with voters in coffee shops, restaurants, and community centers. We traveled the governor's route as well to hear what he had to say and to hear what voters had to say about him. Bullock's first stop was in the farming community of Newton, about 35 miles east of Des Moines, where he told local Democrats that to reclaim the White House, the party must sometimes take the road less traveled.
Whether it's Montana or Iowa, whether it's Michigan or Wisconsin, if we're writing off places just because either they didn't vote for us last time or they're not part of our party's base, we're never going to be able to bridge the divides to actually get things done.
Iowa, of course, is the site of the nation's first presidential nominating caucus next February, where candidates need to show well or risk becoming irrelevant. Newton residents Judy Stevens and Lisa Cunningham were among those who came to Uncle Nancy's coffee shop to listen to the latest presidential candidate to come to town.
We were checking him out, and I was pleasantly surprised. His knowledge in the agricultural area. I knew the Big Sky country, has a lot of mining, but I didn't realize he was so invested in agriculture. So that really gave him a little kick for me.
Cunningham said she was impressed by Bullock's stance against dark money influence in politics, and that he had a good turnout for a new unknown candidate.
I hope that you find this heartening that in a little town like Newton, that you have this big of a turnout for someone that's just thrown his hat in the ring, like, what was it, Monday he said, or Tuesday? And this is Friday.
Bullock also visited the Meskwaki Indian settlement near Tama, Iowa, where he met a sometimes skeptical crowd. Danielle Wanatee, who chairs the Native American caucus in the local congressional district, said Bullock was the first presidential candidate to reach out to the tribal community, but that she wanted more.
He seems a little too vague. I'd like to have him pinpoint his stance on a lot more issues, but I think that's what he's coming here to test the heartbeat of the nation, because that's what Iowa is, the heart of this nation.
Accompanying Bullock Friday was longtime Iowa Attorney General Tom Miller, who has endorsed Bullock as the Democrat to back for president. Miller said the person-to-person politics of Iowa gives someone like Bullock a chance to break out of the 23-person Democratic pack.
What tops it off is his ability to connect with people. I think he connects with people better than anybody I've seen out here in Iowa except for Barack and Bill Clinton. And we need someone who can connect with people, rural people, working class people, liberals, Democrats, Republicans. And I think he can do that.
Governor Bullock certainly connected with more than a few voters in Iowa Friday, but at this point, he's just one of those 23 Democratic presidential candidates trying to succeed in this crucial nominating state. In Dubuque, Iowa, Mike Dennison, MTN News.
All right, thanks, Mike.
And Mike's coverage from Iowa will continue tonight and tomorrow.
Well, Yellowstone County Democrats set to host their annual Truman Dinner tomorrow night in Billings. The keynote speaker this year, Jim Messina, former President Barack Obama's campaign manager and White House Deputy Chief of Staff. A number of other Democratic speakers will also take the stage, including former Senator and U.S. Ambassador to China, Max Baucus. That event starts at 5:30 at the Billings Hotel and Convention Center. But a heads up, if you didn't get a ticket, it's too late. The event is already sold out.
Wildland firefighters urging Montana U.S. Senator Steve Daines to do whatever he can to convince more people to stick with firefighting as a career and help those who get injured when protecting our homes and forests. The firefighters, who came from smoke jumper and hotshot crews around western Montana, said the changes are needed to help retain younger firefighters and convince them to take federal positions instead of leaving for higher paying jobs in the private sector. Daines is about to introduce legislation that would seek to change the federal job classification for fire teams from forest technicians back to firefighters and make other changes in how they're paid.
These wildland firefighters, they're not Republicans or Democrats, they're great Americans. They really don't care about the partisan bickering. They want to get something done. And they're risking their lives for us. They're protecting us. It's time we protect them.
The junior senator says he's confident there's growing bipartisan support for those changes.
On the weather scene tonight, Bob, the closer we get to the weekend, it looks like all this rain is going to solidify into snow even quicker than we thought.
Yeah, you guys want to talk to me about that? Yeah.
No.
Oh, we got to, though. Let me show you what's happening out there right now. Doppler radar showing some scattered rain showers moving there. And look at the white stuff up in the Beartooth. Yeah, that's new snow up there as well. But you'll notice we have some more showers moving through tonight. I think later tonight by about 10 o'clock or 10:30 or maybe 11 o'clock, we'll see some more rain showers move in here. Some of it will probably be kind of heavy or so. Then after that, look what happens. On Saturday morning, this computer model, the high-resolution forecast, shows rain mixing with snow moving into the Billings area. Now, don't worry about it if you get a lot of snow. We've got something to take care of that for you. Let me show you the video. This is what we have. Yeah, that will plow your driveway out really well. Actually, no, this is the Montana Department of Transportation. They are plowing Beartooth Pass. They're probably going to have to do it all over again. But boy, they're making good headway up there. They're trying to open by Memorial Day, but it looks like they'll probably have to do some more plowing tomorrow because we're going to get some more snow up there tonight. We'll have your weekend forecast in a few more minutes.
All right, thanks so much, Bob. Well, Pryor residents back to boiling their water tonight. The Crow tribe issued that water boil advisory today. A post on the tribe's Facebook page states the Pryor water system shut down Thursday when pumps lost power. Now, when the pumps go out, pressure drops and water starts to flow through cracks and the pipes, breaks, and joints. So all drinking water must be boiled before drinking to kill any potential bacteria or other organisms in the water. All stored water or ice made recently from this supply should also be discarded. It could take a few days before the system is cleared and the boil notice lifted.
A Mexican citizen who was busted in an investigation where law enforcement found 34 pounds of meth in a Billings hotel is now headed to prison. Jorge Mendez Sanchez is the third man to plead guilty in the case. He was sentenced to just under 6 years in prison and 5 years of supervised release. The meth, which Mendez Sanchez is accused of transporting from Arizona, had a street value of around $1.5 million. And a Billings man who also admitted to meth trafficking crimes has also earned a long prison sentence. Keith Allen Rose was sentenced to 10 years in prison this week. Police began investigating Rose after an anonymous tip Search of his house led to meth and drug paraphernalia. Both those cases are part of the Project Safe Neighborhoods effort.
Well, coming up on tonight's 5:30 news, downtown Great Falls to add a beautiful addition in the next few weeks. And they're getting some help from the land of 10,000 lakes.
And later in sports, two Billings doubles teams take aim at state tennis titles. Highlights from Championship Friday on the way.
You're watching MTN News with Jeanelle Slade and Russ Riesinger. Storm Tracker weather with Bob McGuire. And sports with Scott Green. This is the 5:30 news on Q2, Montana's news leader.